Boogeyman band coming round the bend. Is Boogeyman band. Is Boogeyman band.
My fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is going to be not one, but two movie reviews. This is actually going to be from the Wrong Turn franchise, and I will be focusing on not only the 2003 original film, but also its remake, which came out earlier this year. Now, both of these films are pretty interesting because they were written by the same person, Alan B. McElroy, who a lot of people may know from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And I was curious why they were going to be remaking this film. This original only came out about 18 years ago, just under 18 years ago, and I thought it was kind of soon to do a remake on it. But since the original writer was involved, I was kind of curious how this film was going to play out. I had heard rumors that it went in a different direction than this film, as well as the rest of the franchise up to this point. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun talking about these. I hope everyone looks forward to it. Please stay tuned. So the original Wrong Turn came out in 2003. The plot of it deals with Chris and a group of 5 friends who are left stranded deep in the middle of the woods after their cars collide. As they venture deeper into the woods, they face an uncertain and blood-curdling fate. The cast, you have Elijah Dushku as Jesse Burlingame. You have Jeremy Sisto as Scott, Emmanuel Chiric as Carly, and Desmond Harrington as Chris Flynn. The movie was written by Alan B. McElroy and directed by Rob Schmidt. Now, this film came out like right around when kind of the Scream-style films were playing out. So you had Scream, you had Valentine, you had Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those were all really big late 90s, early 2000 films. And then there was kind of a change in the horror genre. Then you started getting into the Final Destinations and things like that. But cannibal movies had really not come back into the limelight until this one. And I thought this was a really interesting premise. I always have been freaked out by films that deal with people being lost. Anybody that gets lost, like, on a road trip or some type of accident where they're out of their element, they're in a strange location, and they have something sinister that's pursuing them. And I thought this film really did it well. It's not a perfect film. I think there are sections of it that drag a little bit, but I think what really saves this film is the amazing cast. Elijah Dushku is gorgeous and terrific as the female lead in this. Also, Desmond Harrington. This was the first thing I'd ever seen him in, but I became a bigger fan of him when he was on Dexter. But I thought he was terrific in this as Chris. And also, Jeremy Sisto is awesome in everything I've seen him in. So, really loved the cast. Really was with them. And, there were a couple of irritating characters, but pretty much those characters within the group are killed off pretty early. Everybody else I really enjoyed, their arcs, and, I was heartbroken when some of them meet their grisly demise at the hands of these backwoods cannibals. And there's some really terrific set pieces. It's very scary. And this was kind of like a precursor to, the rebirth of the slasher genre and the remake boom that would come several months later when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in October of 2003. This was the same year that I got married, and that was when the horror genre started to change again. And I feel like this is one of the precursors to that change that came. But I think Rob Schmidt did a great job directing it. I love the writing by Alan B. McElroy. Like I said, the setting, I know it was shot in Canada, but it really does have that backwoods, Deliverance kind of creepy element to it, and you don't know what's around each little location that they're going to. You feel like they're being watched before the action really takes place, and the grisly scenes are really gory and really well done. So Wrong Turn might not be my favorite horror movie, but I think it's really well done, and I think it still holds up nearly 18 years later. If I had to give it a rating on my scale, I would give Wrong Turn 4 skulls. For the 2021 Wrong Turn film, you have friends hiking the Appalachian Trail who are confronted by the Foundation, a community of people who have lived in the mountains for hundreds of years. For the cast, you have Charlotte Vega as Jen, Aidan Bradley as Darius, Bill Sage as Venable, Emma Dumont as Mila, Dylan McTee as Adam, and Matthew Modine as Scott. This movie was again written by Alan B. McElroy and directed by Mike P. Nelson. I didn't listen to any other reviews of this film or read anything about this film before watching it. I just knew that it was kind of a remake to the original Wrong Turn with the same screenwriter. I knew there was going to be some liberties taken. There were some changes made. I believe I knew ahead of time that it wasn't going to involve cannibals. So that's one thing that is not in this film. It's not a film dealing with cannibal mountain people. It's dealing with this society that kind of, has its rules. You pretty much leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. But if you venture into their territory, there are going to be repercussions, specifically if you cause any harm to any of their people. For the pros of this film, of course, I think one of the pros is that it has the same writer. Alan B. McElroy is a terrific writer. And I do like that they flipped the script a little bit on this in terms of what to expect. Pretty much when you have a film like the original Wrong Turn, you know that our heroes are the young people. They are the ones that are in the isolated locale. They're the ones that have been trapped or just made a wrong turn and ended up in this situation. And it's the antagonists are the people that live in the mountains or in the woods or whatever. Those are the ones that you're supposed to be against, and the kids are the ones you're supposed to be rooting for. And this script takes liberties with that, and I thought it was really refreshing and really kind of well done, specifically in the climate that we're all living in right now. I also thought that some of the costuming was really well done, especially when it comes to members of the Foundation. Really well done and really just almost like beautifully creepy. I also thought that Bill Sage and Matthew Modine were fantastic in it. I've been a huge fan of Matthew Modine since I was a kid, from movies like Vision Quest and Gross Anatomy and Full Metal Jacket. Pacific Heights is another great movie that he's been in, and the band played on. Terrific actor, and just happy to see him. He's an older man now, but he's still, I think, just a complete awesome presence in anything he commits to, and just loved the energy that he brought to the Scott character. I really liked him in this film. And Bill Sage, I've seen him in several things. He was in American Psycho. Recently, he was in a movie called Fender Bender, which is a movie I want to do a review on. I watched it a long time ago, and I never did a review on it. It was also in the movie We Are What We Are, but his presence is absolutely amazing. He has a very deep voice. He's got a very intense presence, and I just loved what he brought to the character of Venable. He was fantastic in the film. And I also thought Mike P. Nelson did a great job directing the film. There's some terrific set pieces in this, and I just liked his camera technique. I thought there was a couple of really good gore moments, some things that really shocked me, particularly one that occurs in the third act of the film that just really made my skin crawl, and it actually really was one that just stayed with me once the film ended. Also, the ending of the film is very ballsy, and I was really surprised they went that route, but I was happy that they went that route. The cons for me are the kids in the film, the ones that are, in this, small town, and, it establishes them right away as kind of unlikable. That's just coming from me. I'm an older man, I'm in my 40s now. I'm not a millennial. I'm not a young kid anymore. And one thing for me, just growing up in the time that I did, is respect. You pay respect to people. And when you're in different towns or around different societies of people, you sort of just respect that they might not think the way that you do. And you just sort of, have to accept that. And there were several scenes in this film that just showed that these kids had this entitlement about them, and that they thought they were right, and they started talking down to people within this community. And in a normal film, that would happen, and then those would be the people that would come after you in whatever horror film we're talking about. But in this film, you really it just really made it soured me on these young kids. And maybe that was the point. I think it was the point to show that there's this entitlement about younger people nowadays. And it really just bothered me. And it made me really not like most of the cast, particularly the character of Adam, played by Dylan McTee. Nothing against him as a performer, but I hated that character. From the moment that he opened his mouth to, as the film progresses, he was just a character I could not get behind, that I absolutely could not stand, and just wanted him to meet a grisly demise. I thought Charlotte Vega as Jen and Aidan Bradley as Darius were interesting. They were probably the two of the group of kids that I really liked. They make stupid decisions, and they don't respect where they are. So it was like a lot of that was kind of just like, I just didn't really care for these kids at all. But on the plus side, I love the fact that, it was a diverse group. It wasn't just a bunch of white kids. It was like, you had an interracial couple, you had a gay couple. I liked that. I thought that was really cool, and it worked because it wasn't so in your face or shoved down your throat. I thought it was really refreshing to see that in a horror film, and I'm glad that we're seeing more stuff like that. But the problem was it was just the acting. I'm not a huge fan of this film. Execution of it just didn't work for me. And I think it came down to the fact that I just could not empathize with these kids. The biggest hook for me was the Matthew Modine character, because he's searching for his daughter who's missing. And that was like the big hook for me, and I almost wish that would have been in the story a little bit more. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. If I had to give Wrong Turn 2020 a rating on my scale, I would give it 2 skulls. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Wrong Turn 2021 and Wrong Turn 2003. Still like this one a lot better than this one, but like I said, I respect what the craft that went into both of them. Again, this one just wasn't for me. I prefer this film, and maybe it's just because I relate to the kids in this one, because I was a kid. I was in my 20s when this movie came out, so I can relate to these kids a little bit more than these. But, again, just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of both films. Are you guys fans of this one over this one? Do you prefer neither of them? Are you not a fan of the franchise in general? But yeah, just would like to hear what people's thoughts are on the Wrong Turn from 2003 and then the Wrong Turn remake that came out this year. So, yeah, thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone. I hope everyone's doing well, and I promise there's some really good horror content coming up real soon. So take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace.